Hello everyone, how are you? Thanks for jumping on this webinar. My name is Adam DTG and I'll be presenting this webinar on how to operate a direct-to-garment printer. Thanks again for jumping in, and here we'll start going. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. First thing, obviously, we'll do a quick introduction myself so that you have a little bit of a background on myself and my history in the direct-to-garment printing industry. We'll talk about the market, the industry as an overview, where it's going, why there's so much growth out of it, and then we're going to get to the kind of the crux of this whole piece, right? It's the how do I actually do this? What's the process? What are the steps that I need to do to create a good, high-quality product for my customer? And that's where we're going to spend the majority of the time. I also have a section on a few marketing ideas that I would like to spend a little bit of time with just because I think they're incredibly valuable, and then also a brief overview of our direct-to-garment printers, and then finally end with a quick Q&A session. So I'm sure everybody's going to have a lot of questions, and hopefully I can cover them all while I'm going through the PowerPoint here. But if for whatever reason I miss something that you feel is really critical, please answer it at the very end just by sending a chat. And you can do that with, I'm sure if you see that there's a little chat box you can use, and we'll just, we'll take those as they come. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Adam DTG. I've been with AnaJet for more than 8 years. I've started as a regional manager, which was basically in the sales side of things. Moved into an enterprise account manager role, which was I was working with our larger volume customers, the large corporate clients, which gave me a whole new perspective on the process, and which is why I think it'll be really valuable for you to hear kind of the next few slides. And now I'm the national sales manager, which means I handle all of the United States and Canada from a sales aspect. So I went to school for business management. I've been in the sales and service industry. I served as the vice president of FC Liberty, which is a financial services firm, and a division director at Robert Half. I threw that last piece in there, but really I think the main thing that I'd like to get across to you is that I've seen this industry grow from being just this small blip on the t-shirt decorating world to now being a really major player and an industry that seems to be transitioning more and more towards digital. I like to use the analogy that if screen printing was like film and your camera, direct-to-garment printing is like your digital camera that we all now have on our iPhones or phones that we have. So let's talk about the direct-to-garment printing industry as a whole and why you should get into it. We commissioned a few reports through a firm called IT Strategies. In fact, once Rico purchased AnaJet, that was one of the first things they did, was try to get a better grasp on the industry. So these statistics that I'm going to share with you are pretty relative. They go through 2015. In 2015, there were 217 million shirts were printed on garment printers with an estimated 2.3 billion retail value. And just to give a little bit of perspective here, 217 million shirts in 2015. If we go back to 2008, which was another IT Strategies report, there was something on the range of about 40 million. So you can see that there's been tremendous growth in that. But really, we are still just scratching the surface because we still are, as technology has improved and as technology kind of takes a bigger and bigger chunk out of the typical garment decoration world, whether it be transfers or screen printing or whatever it might be, sublimation. The only segment of that pie that is growing is the direct-to-garment printing section. That pie is getting bigger and bigger as more and more people start transitioning to a digital platform, just like you transitioned from getting your film developed at a Kodak store, and now just digitally print it right out onto your computer. So garment printing right now is estimated to be about a $30 billion industry. But there's tremendous room for growth as the technology gets better and better and better. And as we've seen over the, well, at least me personally, as I've seen over the past 8 years, the technology comes in leaps and bounds, it seems. So what are the main benefits? Why is it growing, right? Why are we seeing this huge growth in direct-to-garment printing? Well, the main one, and it's right why it's at the top, is because there's no more minimum order that you need, whereas screen printers, you have that. You can also do unlimited colors and literally take a photo on your phone and print it out onto a shirt. You can customize and personalize each individual shirt. There are now durable, high-volume digital apparel printers that can take just a beating, that don't require as much maintenance and things that older models might have. It's a lot easier to learn and operate, especially when you compare it to traditional methods like screen printing. Screen printing is an art form. There's an apprenticeship to it. You have to know your craft well, and for all the screen printers that are out there now, they can attest. If there's another screen printer, and you have the pride in your work, but if there's another screen printer out there, you give one image to one screen printer, another image to another screen printer, and I would guarantee the screen printer that's been doing it for 10 years versus the guy that's been doing it for a year is going to get you a much higher quality work, and that's because it's an art. It really is. There's an art form there. But also, back to the direct-to-garment printing, there's predictable profit margins. It's not as convoluted, right? It's not, it's simple to understand that, this is the exact amount of ink I'm using on this shirt. This is the exact cost of this particular garment. So I know going into what my material cost is, whether it's one shirt or 100 shirts, right? It also gives you an opportunity to attract all types of new businesses with different samples, and you can put their logos and campaign images onto a shirt. We're actually seeing, obviously, a big portion of that because of some of the things that are going on in the news, but samples are a great selling tool, and I'll get into that in the marketing segment. You also have the ability to do quicker turnaround times, as opposed to somebody came in and wanted 50 shirts in a local screen print shop. If that person was outsourcing, or if that person was actually doing it in-house, depending on the workload that they had going on, typical turnaround times can be about 2 weeks, is what we see as a nationwide average. Well, 50 shirts, depending on the printer that you get, can take anywhere from a half an hour to 2 hours to complete. And that kind of rush capability allows you to charge a little bit more, which obviously increases the margins that you make on the printer or on the garment. You can eliminate those lead times, ship times, and middlemen from the equation because it's easier to use and operate. Excuse me. Because it's easier to use and operate, there's no longer a need for a middleman, right? You don't need, for all those ASI people that are out there listening right now, you probably have a few different screen printers that you use, that you collect a job and give it to them, and then your screen printer charges you, $5, $6, $7. You charge your customer maybe $12, $13, and you're making a $5 profit. Well, that's great, and it's a solid business aspect, and that whole process was created because screen printing is an art form, and because nobody wanted to set up their own screen printing shop. Well, now with direct-to-garment printing, it's just as easy for you to get a direct-to-garment printer, stick it right near your computer in your home office or in the office that you have, and print it right there on the spot. And instead of you paying $5, $6, $7 for that shirt, now you're paying $2.50 to $3 in consumables and shirt plus consumables, and now you take a bigger chunk of that margin. So it's allowing you that type of access, and which is, I think, is a big segment of the growth that we see is that specific piece of the industry, is that it's no longer this huge daunting task to be able to produce shirts. No more emulsions, no more cleaning screens, burning screens. It's just a digital printer. Take the image, load it into the software, and hit print. Obviously, minimal footprint, and you can print out of your own home, like I mentioned. So let's talk about the process as a whole, right? So the whole idea about direct-to-garment printing and this particular webinar is, what's the way that we have, what do I have to do to get a garment from pulling the shirt out of the box to handing it to my customer, okay? Well, one of the steps that I feel like is constantly glossed over, and I think it's a disservice actually to customers looking into this, is the pre-treatment step, okay? Now, the first thing that I want to say about pre-treatment is pre-treatment is only needed when using white ink. So for example, if you're printing on a white shirt, you don't need any pre-treatment for that. So you don't need to apply pre-treatment. You can simply put the shirt down and hit the print button, okay? Conversely, if you're printing on a red shirt, and that red shirt has light blues and pinks and blue, all these different colors in it. Well, red's a very dominant color, okay? And you need to have a white ink underbase to be able to see that light pink in that red, or that green in that red, to make sure that you get those accurate colors. So in that particular example, that would be a shirt that needed to be pre-treated. Now, to take it a step further, if you had that same red shirt, but you were printing, say, black text on it that said, you know, your local high school's FHS kind of thing. Well, the black is a more dominant color than red. So you could print black on red and get the exact black that you wanted to without any white ink, so you wouldn't need white ink in that situation. Now, this is kind of the learning process of direct-to-garment printing, okay? And you're going to have times where you need to rely on the support and the service of the manufacturer of the equipment to help you with these types of decisions. But after a few times, it's pretty easy to get and understand. But I bring that up because it's something that, like I said, I feel like it's glossed over. But what is pretreatment? Okay, well, pretreatment is essentially a primer for paint. If you were to paint your wall in your house, you would lay down a primer coat. And then put the paint on top of it. It makes the paint look the color that you want and makes it look nice and, you know, bright and shiny, right? But why do we use it? It allows the white ink to look nice and vibrant. It makes the white ink jump off the shirt. If you didn't pre-treat and just put white ink onto the shirt, it would look kind of like almost like you spilled milk on the shirt. It wouldn't be that bright opaque that you need. Because it's that primer coat, right? When do you apply it? Like I said, apply pre-treatment prior to printing, and only when you're using white ink. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to pre-treat. Okay, they give you the most common way is with a Wagner spray gun. That's that image that you see on the right of your screen. That's just a paint sprayer that you load in with the pre-treatment and you spray it onto the shirt. Another way that you can do it is with a pre-treatment machine, which is the way that is on the left side of your screen there. That pre-treatment machine, you put the shirt right down onto the platen, stick it in, and hit that green button on the right-hand side, and it sprays it and spits it back out. Now, the key thing here to recognize is that once you've sprayed the shirt, it has to be dried, because you can't print right onto the wet pre-treat. So there's a few different ways to dry it. Now, everybody, like I said, I've been in this industry for 8 years, and everybody has their own way, whatever works for them. It seems to me that the most convenient way is to just dry it under like a heat press or a tunnel dryer if you have one. It's quick, takes no more than maybe 60 seconds just to, you know, get it nice and dry, and you're good to go. People have hung them outside. Some parts of the country, though, that's not realistic. Some people have just kind of let it air dry in that particular area where they're pre-treating, and that's fine too. The whole point here, though, is that you just want it to be dry before you start printing. The next question, though, customers ask me is, well, doesn't that add to my production time? Well, yeah, of course, it adds to your production time, but I want you to start thinking about it in a little bit of a different way. When you have, say you're doing a job for 12 shirts, okay? You could pre-treat all of those 12 shirts at the same time, you know, one right after the other, just, you know, put them aside as you're done, and then cure them under a heat press or a tunnel dryer or air dry, however you want to dry them. And then take the 12 shirts over to your direct-to-garment printer and start printing. Okay, that's a little bit more operationally. That's a little bit more efficient, right? Another thing though too is you're bound to carry some inventory of your most popular brands of shirts, right? Like a black XL is probably going to be a pretty popular shirt for you, or a heather gray medium or large. You know, there's a few shirts out there that are pretty popular. So some people tend to keep a little bit of inventory on hand. Well, if you ever want to, you're more than welcome to pre-treat those shirts, dry them, fold them up, put them in a box, and just use as needed. It's not as if the shirt has to be pre-treated right before you print. Some of the times when we go to shows, we pull shirts out of boxes that were pre-treated months ago. So it's not going to damage it. Once the shirt is pre-treated, you're good to go. One last bit that I want to spend on pre-treatment, and I'm hopefully I covered this, covered everything, the questions that you have. But like I said, we have that Q&A at the end, so feel free to ask those questions. But AnaJet is currently in the process of working with a supplier to have the shirts ordered pre-treated. So we're looking to eliminate this step completely for you. Now, right now, that's not the case, but as we see technology improve, these are some of the things that we're working on. So the goal for us is for you to be able to purchase a shirt from this supplier that is completely 100% pre-treated, so you can skip this step. And it's something that we're working towards, and hopefully we'll have here in the near future for you. But I'm just throwing that out there just because I want you to be aware that, you know, the technology doesn't necessarily just improve in just the printing aspect. It improves in the facilitation of every aspect of the printing process, right? So we're looking at all different ways to make this more and more convenient for our customers. Okay. So the next step is design. So you have your shirts; they're pre-treated. Okay, they're you know, sitting ready to go. All right, and your customer is giving you this design that they want printed. The key thing that I'll say about a design, the printer can print literally anything that it wants, okay? And it's going to print what it sees. So if you want to see a very high quality product, it's typically a good idea to have a high quality graphic. The higher the quality of the graphic, the better quality of the product. The lower quality of the graphic, the lower quality of the product. It's that old adage, I'm sure we've all heard, garbage in, garbage out, right? So how do you ensure that it's a high quality graphic? Well, the main thing is you just want to have a high resolution file. You know, if your customer brings you a 72 by 72 JPEG, which is on screen, you know, an inch by an inch, and they want it blown up to a 12-inch by 12-inch image right on the front of the shirt, it's going to look pixelated because there's only 72 by 72 pixels in that JPEG. But if you had something that was, you know, 580 by 580, you can make that as big as the shirt, and your image will turn out really well. So there's two things to think about. One, when you're talking with your customers, you want a high resolution image. And this, and you know, just to stop myself really quickly here, that's pretty standard, you know, operating procedure when we're talking, even with screen printers or anybody else. I'm sure you guys run across this already. High resolution image, simple as that. Okay. Now, if you have somebody that is really good at their artwork and things like that, you can ask for two additional things. Okay, the first thing you wanted to ask for is maybe that the file is 300 dpi or larger. Dpi is drops per inch. Okay, so 300 dpi or larger and a high resolution file. Last but not least, and this isn't a necessity, but it does make it more convenient for you. When graphics are created in Photoshop or Illustrator or Corel or whatever it might be that they're using, they typically have different layers, and each layer may be a color. To keep this as simple as possible, say the customer sent you a graphic that had, say, three different colors in it, and it said mom on it, right? And say the M's were red, the O's were white, and the background was black. Now, this, like I said, it's not a necessity, but if you had that original layered file and you were going to print this on a black shirt because the background is black, well, you wouldn't want to print black ink on a black shirt. It's a waste of ink for one, and the quality won't be as good. So what you would like to do is, if you had the original layer file, is eliminate that black layer and only have the mom, the M's, and the M's in the image is red and the O is white. That way you're only printing the mom onto that black shirt, and it gives you a much better quality product, and you save on ink cost. Okay, these are those are kind of the three main things that the first two are probably a necessity. The third thing isn't that big of a deal, just because the software that comes with the printer allows you to eliminate that light color. So that black, you could easily eliminate it with the software that comes with the printer. But if you did have the original layered file, overall it just gives you a little bit higher quality product. Now I gave you a very simple example with the mom analogy, but some graphics can be, especially when they have shadings and they fade out into the edge of the edge of the shirt. Original layer file can go a long way and make the overall product that much better. And again, if you have questions specifically about this, I encourage you to rely on your direct-to-garment printer supplier. They can help you, or should be able to help you. I know AnaJet does. Should be able to help you get the desired result that you're looking for. And it's like, you know, anything else, riding a bike. You do it a few times, all of a sudden light bulb goes off and you go, oh, I get it. This is easy enough. I can take care of this. But always, again, rely on the support and service that your direct-to-garment printer supplier gives you. Now with the RIP software that we manufacture, we have like I said, you can actually physically go in and eliminate colors like that in our software. That's that second bullet point that says automatically remove a background color. It also has an ink cost calculator, so even before you print, you know exactly how much ink it's using. And that way you can accurately, you know, price your product. There are different ways to customize the art. You can increase the brightness, the contrast, the saturation. And with us, we give you, anytime we make any improvements to our software, we give it to you for free. So free software upgrades. But that's the initial piece, right? So if you're doing 12, or say we're doing that AnaRip shirt that you see right on front of you, once you get it dialed in once, right? You've got your color, you got your settings, everything's good, and you hit print and you send it to the printer, you don't have to go back and redo this step. Okay? Once you've hit print and send it to the printer, you can send it with as many copies as you want, or physically on the printer you can add additional copies as needed. Okay, so and one nice little feature is, at least on the mPower series of our printers, you can take once the graphic has been sent to the printer, there's an internal hard drive in the printer that has 8 gigs of memory, and it actually can store the graphic on the printer so that you'll never have to rip it again. And if that customer comes back a couple weeks later and says, hey, I need 2 more of those, you don't have to go through any of that process anymore. You can just go directly to your control panel onto the printer, find the right job, put down the shirt, and hit print. Okay, so I just basically took you through the 2 most complicated pieces of the process, and as I think we all can see, it's really not that difficult to do. If we were talking about screen printing, to give you kind of a comparison, that image that you see on your screen probably has 15, 16 different colors in it. So a screen printer would have to use a CMYK process to get that done, but they would have to create 4 different screens and 4 different layers, and the artwork that would go into that would probably take them you know, the better part of an hour to get it dialed in. Whereas with ours, you would just drag and drop it right into the software itself, remove the background color if it's applicable, and hit print with the default settings, and you'd be off and running. Okay, the next step is printing. Okay, now we've got it, right? We've got the file. It's on that control panel. It pops up right in front of you, and now you got to put the shirt down. Now, I included this link on here. I was trying to find a quick and easy way to show you the process of putting a shirt down and then, making sure it's aligned correctly. And I kept fumbling with the PowerPoint, and so I thought, you know what better way than to just click this YouTube link. So I encourage you all, I'm going to keep going, but open that YouTube link, set it aside for a second, and maybe after the webinar or right now you might be just kind of quickly seeing how somebody is putting the shirt down onto the printer, putting the hoop around it, and hitting the green button. It's a pretty seamless process. It just is, one right after the other, right after the other. The printing part, like I said, this is the easiest part. Really, the main thing is that you want to make sure that it's aligned correctly based off where you want to position your shirt, or if you want to print on the pocket and sleeve or side of the shirt or back or front, wherever it might be. There are guides on the platen that show you direct center so you can align it correctly. There are different platens that allow you, for example, there's a sleeve platen, there's a youth platen that make it a little bit easier for you to dress the shirt and position it right where you want it to be positioned. So it's all very, very basic. In fact, this is probably the easiest and the most fun, to be honest. The easiest and most fun part of the whole process is putting the shirt down and actually watching it do its thing. So save that YouTube link, and you'll get an idea of kind of how that works. Now, the next and final step before your print is done is the curing piece. Okay, so once the printer is done printing, the ink is still wet. Okay, now it could air dry. It really could. It could air dry, and it would look great. It would look great. As soon as you washed it, though, it would start to wash out. The ink, excuse me, the ink chemically needs to hit a certain temperature for it to chemically bind to the fabric, for it to make sure that when you wash it, it's not going to wash out. Okay? If you ever have a wash problem, if you ever have a customer that is saying, man, I washed this 5 times and it's all washed out. It doesn't have anything to do with the ink. Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the manufactured specified ink. It doesn't have anything to do with the printer or the graphic setup. It all is based off the curing, okay? Because there's a literal chemical reaction that the heat, applying the heat, binds the ink to the fabric and evaporates all the water out of the ink. So the only thing left is the pigment, okay? Now, there's a few different ways that you can do it. The most common way is with a heat press. That's that one that you see on the right there. Another way is with a tunnel dryer. That's the thing that you see on the left. Both work very well. And based off where you're at with your, and where you're planning on setting up your direct-to-garment printer, space is probably going to be your biggest determining factor. All right? Now, one nice piece is that for a light shirt, so that means a garment that doesn't require white ink, so a light or pastel colored type shirt, you can up the temperature, excuse me, you can up the temperature to 56 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 seconds, and that's enough to cure the ink onto the fabric, okay? But if you have white ink, you have to drop the temperature to 330 degrees and cure it for 90 seconds. Now, one last little note, that dark shirt setting, that 330 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 seconds, will also work for light-colored garments as well. But typically light-colored garments print faster than dark-colored garments. So it's nice to have the option to be able to, say, print a shirt in 35 seconds and cure a shirt in 35 seconds so you can get a nice little production line going. That's the idea. Now, I do want to point out one quick thing. I had this customer about 3-4 years ago. She called me up and said, Adam, something's going on. My shirts are washing out. And I said, all right, well, that's kind of weird. Can you send me a picture of this shirt so that I can take a look at what it looks like? And she sent me the picture of a photograph she printed on the shirt. and just the top right corner was fading out. The rest of it, the rest of the bottom, 3/4 of the image looked perfect, like it didn't wash out at all. And after looking at it, I thought, well, you know what it looks like to me is that a coil that's in her heat press, or whatever heating element that is where that shirt is, isn't working. And it's not heating up that section of the shirt to the recommended cure time. And because of that, that's the piece that washes out. So she took a little laser gauge that had a temperature gauge basically on it with using a laser. And sure enough, I was right on. There was a section of her heat press that was basically cold. The rest of the heat press worked fine, but there was a section of her heat press that was cold, and it wasn't curing the ink fully in that area, and because of that, it was washing out. And I bring this up just because it reiterates and proves kind of the point that I was making earlier, that if you ever have wash concerns, it's not necessarily the printer or the operation. It really boils down to making sure that you're at the correct temperature for the correct amount of time. And if you ever have a slight concern that you're not doing it for the correct amount of time, because temperature can fluctuate with these heat presses and these tunnel dryers, increase the temperature by 5 seconds and increase the time by, increase the temperature by 5 degrees and increase the time by 5 seconds. So instead of going 356 for 35 seconds, go to 361 for 40. Or instead of going 330 for 90 seconds, go to 335 for 95. That way you'll ensure that the garment is getting cured adequately and is going to withstand the wash. Okay, and then the inevitable question is, well, how long does it last once it's washed? Well, even if you cure it perfectly, 100%. Well, a lot of that depends on the type of garment that you're using. Okay, some garments are a higher quality cotton, and that can play a small, minimal effect. But I'll tell you, I have had shirts that I printed over 8 years ago that are still in my dresser drawer that I've washed 100+ times, and they still hold up well. As long as you're curing, you're going to be in good shape. And with the way that the ink is today and how it's improved, your shirt should last just as long, if not longer, than a screen printed shirt, and you'll get a lot better feel out of it. So that's the curing and the final step. So you cure it, it pops up, boom, your shirt is done. Your shirt is done, ready to be packaged up, or however or given directly to your customer, and you're good. So that's the process, right? So let's recap real quickly. So pre-treat the shirt. Okay, remember, you can pre-treat them in advance. In the software, make sure you have a high-resolution file. Try to have it at 300 dpi or greater, and eliminate the color that's in that you're printing the shirt on. Okay, so if you have an image that is going on a black shirt and there's black in the image, try to eliminate that black. It's a waste of ink, and it won't look as good as if you did eliminate the black. All right. Then there's the print process. Put the shirt down, align it according to the grooves and the markers that are on the platen, or use the appropriate platen, the sleeve or youth size platen or half platen. Use the appropriate platen based off what you're trying to print on. Okay. Then hit the green button, print it out, and take it over to your curing section, which is your heat press or your tunnel dryer. Most commonly, like I said, is the heat press. And that's it, guys. That's it. And just to kind of, expand on this point, if this whole webinar was about screen printing, I'd just be at the section where I am doing my emulsions, or I'd just be at the section where I'm officially putting ink onto the screen after I've set it up. The process is simplified. The process is much easier now. And you can get high quality results and do that much more. Right? Give yourself more colors and not be restricted by the amount of minimums that you might have to have. Right? Okay, so that was the process from start to finish on how to print. But where are you going to get the jobs? Where are the areas? Now, for a lot of you that are on this call right now, your ASI members, you're already doing the hard work because you know how to get the business. I mean, that's the whole point, right, of what you guys do. So you're good at the sales aspect of it, but I wanted to show you this list. And I know our ASI team members here are going to record this so that you can have reference later. So this won't be completely gone for you. But these specific areas have been identified as the primary markets of garment purchasing, right? So these are and the top markets are the bolded ones. So these are the areas that buy shirts, basically. Okay, obviously I'm sure there's a few on there that you probably already do business with. Schools, I would bet, government, corporate institutions, food service, athletic teams, all different things like that. Hospitality service, I keep running across that one recently. But these are the industries that buy garments. So when you're going out and marketing, these are the groups that you want to go to. These are the places that say, yes, I have a need, right? But where do you start? Well, the first thing I would do is I would focus on your community initially, right? For all of you that have that customer base already established, I'll give you the best advice I can give you. Real quickly, this is it. If you have an established customer base that is ordering shirts or is not ordering shirts from you, do this for me. We got Halloween around the corner. On your shirt, print a pumpkin, and on the bottom of it, print no minimum order, unlimited colors, 48-hour turnaround time, customize, personalize each individual shirt, and then the very bottom, all of your contact information, and give it as a free sample to all of those customers. Just give it to them as a free sample. It's a $2 shirt with 20 cents worth of ink. Okay, it's the cheapest marketing tool you'll ever have, but here's the brilliance behind it. Okay, nobody throws away a shirt. You hand out a business card, you hand out a flyer, that ends up in the trash on somebody's desk. They don't look at it, maybe down in the seat, in between the seat in their car. However much we'd like to think that the business card and flyer are very popular marketing techniques, and they are to some extent, your conversion rate will be much, much higher with a t-shirt, and still at a very minimal cost and minimal time for you. $2.20 shirt, like I said. And what did it take you to print it? A minute and a half tops, and that's including curing. So give it to your customer and let them know. And they may not have a need right now, but the beauty is nobody's going to throw it away. It's going to end up in their closet, their dresser, somewhere, and maybe even in their rag bag. But the point is, every time they see it, they're going to know, oh yeah, that's the group that can do shirts for me. Okay, but when I talked about, so now, say that's for the customers that have their existing customer base, right? You have people that you work with already. Okay, now what about the people that you don't have, or people that don't have an existing customer base or want to expand their customer base? Do the same thing, but print 20 samples every week. 20 pumpkins that highlight the no minimum order, the 48-hour turnaround time, customize, personalize each individual shirt, all of the benefits that you can offer, unlimited colors, right? All your contact information, and go to all of those places that I had on that slide prior to this one. Go to the athletic teams, go to the schools, go to the bars, go to the restaurants, and drop off the shirt. Say, hey, here's my business card, but my business card is my shirt, right? Just say, give it to them. Hey, here's what I can do for you if you ever need it. All right. And just do it and every week identify 20 places in your immediate area that you can do that to. And I'll bet you anything, within the first 90 days, you'll generate enough income to pay for your printer. 20 a week. And what's it cost you? 30 bucks a week? Total marketing budget. What is it? $120, $150 a month? And that'll give you enough income to pay for your machine. I'll guarantee it. And I didn't just come up with this, so I'm not just pulling this out of my mind here. This was actually a proven method that I heard about six years ago, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, with a customer of mine in Virginia who told me he did this, and within the first 90 days paid for his machine. And ever since he told me that, I tell every customer I talk to, this is your first step. Take those shirts, grab 4 hours on a Wednesday and drop off these shirts to those 20 different organizations, those 20 places that are in your surrounding area, and just keep doing it once a week, 20 shirts a week. And within that first 90 days, you'll generate enough income and you'll keep you printing. And now that you have the printing process down, it should be easy enough for you to accomplish whatever goals that they need. Okay? So it's really critical that I just emphasize that nobody will throw that shirt away. Shirts are kept. Even people wear stuff all the time. I mean, I have shirts that I would never wear to work, but when I'm washing my car, I have my shirt, my grungy old shirt that I wear, and it's typically a giveaway type shirt that I got, and that's the same idea. Okay. Also, contact your friends and family. Let them know that you have a need or that you have this capability, and offer a referral bonus. And most likely they'll be more than willing to pass your name off to somebody that may come up with a need. The idea is to network. Get out to your friends and family and go out to those different businesses and drop off those shirts. And if you want to take it a little farther, be strategic about it. For example, just one that pops in my head, I'm a little ashamed that it did, but if you go to a bar before St. Patrick's Day, a month before St. Patrick's Day, and you give them a shirt that has a 4-leaf clover on it, and you say, hey, I can print all of these for all your waitresses and your bartenders so that they'll wear it on St. Patrick's Day. And I'll charge you, $12 a shirt, and I see you have 10 employees. Well, that's $120 that guy is going to give you, and your cost for that shirt and everything may be only for $30. So you just made $90 just off that one order, just by being a little bit strategic about it. And like I said, I'm a little ashamed that I had to do the bar one. Trust me, I don't spend too much time at the bar. It just popped into my head. But that's the kind of idea about thinking a little bit strategically about it and positioning yourself. That's why I said make it a pumpkin. Do something that's seasonal, right? Another piece of it is that I would definitely contact your current network, your screen printers, your embroiderers, your sign shops, your trophy and award shops. Utilize these groups to pick up smaller margin jobs. They're not going to be the big paydays that if you sell direct in the retail kind of setting, but these screen printers that don't have direct-to-garment printing, they have a need for small orders. And if you can create those relationships, they'll pass that information on to you. Same with the embroiderers and same with the sign shops. They have a need. Typically, people like to have a one-stop shop kind of place, which is, amazingly, that's what ASI is really all about. It's that network of creating, right? And that's the kind of idea. Go use that network to get the word out that you do these kinds of things, and that you can do their jobs for them. Yeah, you're gonna not, instead of making $8 a shirt or $12 a shirt, you're making $4 or $5 a shirt. But hey, $4 or $5 a shirt is still a healthy margin. Look for some web opportunities: eBay, Etsy, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram. You have to have a social media presence these days. People have to be able to comment on the designs and give you customer feedback. These are huge pieces. I encourage you, if you don't have eBay, Etsy, Pinterest, Instagram, at least get a Facebook page for your business, and I'm sure you probably already do. And monitor it and encourage customers that had good experiences to post on the Facebook page, because when people look up these types of things, they get a referral from somebody, they're going to go online, and if you have a Facebook page that has a couple good referrals on there, oh, these guys were great, they did a great job for me, it's only going to make it that much better for you, and it's going to kind of legitimize the whole operation that you're running. A couple other new marketing ideas. I would, if you ever want to take it on the road, take the printer on the road, they are portable. You can do that. You don't necessarily have to take it on the road, but you can bring your stuff, bring your printed material, or at least collect orders. Different car shows, dog shows, county and state fairs, school festivals, Little League softball, Boy Scouts. I mean, YMCA's, 5K, 10Ks. A big one on this whole thing is getting in with the city. Getting with the Chamber of Commerce and seeing what events the city has on a day-to-day basis, and trying to attack that piece of it. that'll be a huge win for you. Not only does it ingrain you in the community itself and kind of raise the stature of what you're doing in the community, but it's a great way to generate business and see what else is out there. So I would definitely go to the city and find out what their monthly agenda is. I know I do it for my family when we do the concerts in the park and the different car shows I like to go to and things like that, and the different fairs and stuff. But getting out there and just and giving these people that attract a lot of attention, giving them the opportunity, hey, look what I can do for you. Here, I can print this shirt. I can take a photograph of you standing there with your grandson and print it right onto a shirt for you. I can't tell you how many people would eat that up and would be willing to pay $20 for a shirt like that, and it may only cost you $2 to $3 to make. So I was planning on going through a little bit more about the mPower, but we are a little short of time. I believe that it was only a 30-minute window we were supposed to be on here, and I think I've already been on here a little bit longer than I should. So let me just briefly say, AnaJet, our Generation 2 printer, is the fastest single platen printer in our class, and we use Ricoh Gen 4 print heads. They're industrial in nature, commercial, so that they're meant to last. To give you a point of reference, 200,000 prints is the time that it's supposed to go. So 200,000 different shirts you should be able to print with these print heads. It has the least amount of preventative maintenance in the industry. Like I said, industrial commercial grade, first class technical support and training, lowest ink cost versus our competition, rapid return on investments, and then print more than just shirts, socks, jeans, hats. Expand what you can offer, giving your customers all the different bells and whistles that they want to see. We also have a closed-loop circulating ink delivery system, which means just a better ink flow, means greater ink economy, means less head cleanings, means the printer just performs at a higher level. And it's a credit to our engineering team here and our engineering team at Ricoh, who have really helped us kind of make this the flagship printer in the industry. And then full control of ink flow volume, which gives you, meaning you don't have to go over multiple times on the shirt to get it to saturate. You can do it in one single pass, which is why our printers are so fast. Also, we give all of our customers free lifetime technical support, free lifetime software upgrades, free lifetime firmware upgrades, and free lifetime training. We're here to support you. I was mentioning it a little bit before, but our support team isn't just referencing the machine itself. We can help you with your graphics. We can help you with your software piece. We can help you with really whatever you need. I mean, we're trying to do an all-encompassing service plan for you. So I encourage you to reach out to us. And we're planning, just so for everybody that's on here, AnaJet with our new Ricoh owners. We're going to be, we're in the midst of training over 3,500 service technicians across the United States to be able to provide on-site support, training, and service to all of our customers. We're in the midst of doing that and should have it be rolled out here pretty soon. All right, so let's do the Q&A. I can see we already have a few. Let me see if I can kind of go through these one-on-one. If you have any, go ahead and send them over. I heard that everyone listening today gets your DTG for half price. Is that right? No, I wish. I'd sell a heck of a lot more of them, but that's a good question. Everybody that is involved in this webinar does get preferred pricing now. It's not half price. I wish it was, but all you have to do, if you don't have a contact here at AnaJet, you can email me directly. I'll speak my email here really clearly for you. It's my first initial A, and my last name, which is T as in Tom, I, P as in Paul, R as in Robert, E as in Edward. So ATIPRE at anajet.com. If you don't have a contact here, feel free to email me, and I'll put you in contact with the right person. But anybody that is attended this webinar does get preferred pricing for a limited time, and it's a savings of it's pretty substantial. I don't want to go into details because we mix and match depending on what the customer's needs are, but I can tell you that you're going to save anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 in that range. So it's a pretty aggressive pricing. So thank you for joining. What is the texture? The next question was, what does the texture of a pre-treated shirt feel like? That's a good question. So after you pre-treat, it does feel a little stiffer than the other parts of the shirt. It kind of depends on the pre-treat that you're using. Some pre-treatment will feel a little more stiff, and some not as stiff. And you know, the shirt can play somewhat of a part too. If it's a ring spun shirt versus just a typical crossbed shirt, that plays a part. But it'll wash out. I think that's the most important thing. So after the first wash, the pretreatment is gone. It's no longer there. The only places that that's still there is under the print itself. So it does feel a little bit stiffer, but I think your customers, you know, you just let them know, hey, this is the process we use. It uses a pretreatment. As soon as you wash it, any stiffness that you're feeling is going to go away. You can also pre-wash your stuff if you want to. I think that's a little excessive. I think most customers are pretty reasonable and understand that with this new process, this is what it's going to be like. One thing though, when we do officially start providing pre-treated shirts, the entire shirt is going to be pre-treated. So the entire shirt will feel the same. So there won't be a clear distinction. So that's kind of a benefit. But like I said, it does feel slightly stiffer in the areas that it was pre-treated. Do I have a demo of the ink cost calculator? I don't have one I can show right now. But if you email me, I can do like a quick cut and paste kind of thing and show you the ink cost calculating piece. But it's kind of nice in the software. Like I said, as soon as you hit print, even before you actually physically put the shirt down, you don't have to print the shirt, but it'll tell you, okay, based off these settings, this is what your ink cost is going to be. And typical ink cost, just so that we're all on the same page. For a light shirt, again, not using white ink, it's about 20 cents. And for a dark shirt with white ink, it's about 80, 85 cents. Plus or minus, you know, 20, 30%, depending on the size of the graphic, right? A pocket print will be much less ink than a full, you know, 18-inch long print. Question 4 was, how can I get a machine for my business? Like I said, feel free to reach out to me directly here at AnaJet, or if you already have a contact here at AnaJet, you're more than welcome to reach out to them. But I can put you in contact with the right people so that you can get what you need. Question 5, how does the AnaJet connect to a computer? Is a wireless connection an option? Yes and no. So there's some fuzzy features. So typically the most common way is people take a USB connection directly to their computer. And the computer can, you know, plugs right into the printer. And that's the most common. But the printer can be a standalone item. It doesn't necessarily need a computer attached to it to run. You can have all of your files onto your computer, transfer them over to a thumb drive, and on that thumb drive, plug it into the printer because there are a port in the back and on the front control panel. And you can plug your thumb drive into your printer, and all of your files that are on that thumb drive will show up on your printer, and you can print directly from there. Question 6, what is the highest room temperature to maintain AnaJet printer in good working condition? Well, that's a really good question. The way that I tend to think of this, you know, in our operation manual, I believe it says 90 degrees. I'll have to I can double check that. If you want to shoot me an email, I can give you specifics. But it's prolonged temperature, right? That's the idea. If you're in an operating environment where, man, it got, you know, super hot in the middle of summer, it was 105 outside and 95 inside, and that was just for a day, you're gonna be all right. It's not gonna hurt you. You'll be fine. Same kind of thing with you know, in the wintertime. If it's, you know, super cold outside, you know, and it's really cold in your warehouse for a limited amount of time, or in your office for a limited amount of time, no big deal. It's prolonged exposure. What you want to do is make sure that your temperature, you obviously don't want to be below freezing, but that your temperature wherever the printer is within a reasonable, comfortable range. The way I look at it is, if you feel comfortable in there, your printer feels comfortable in there. So keep it where you're comfortable at. Okay. Another piece that can play a part is humidity. You know, we're working with water-based ink, so in drier climates, like if any of you are in like Arizona or Nevada, in drier climates, the water in the ink will evaporate, making the ink more viscous, right? Whereas if you're in very humid climates, like maybe down south, south of Texas, Florida, Georgia, you know, humidity is great for the printer. So if you're in a drier climate, get a humidifier. They're $150 at Home Depot. Stick it right next to the printer and you'll be fine. But that being said, I mean, it's important that you, I always, like I said, if you're comfortable, the machine's going to be comfortable. And that's a good rule of thumb. If you want the specifics, you can email me and I can kind of share with you what our user manual says and give you like the exacts. But that's kind of the way I tend to look at it. How much ink is typically lost when you have to clean the system? Okay, so the printer requires, there's some caveats to that question, right? So the printer requires a once-a-week maintenance, okay? This maintenance means that you clean around the seals on the maintenance station, you clean off the wiper blade, and you clean off the tip of your print head. There is no direct ink loss doing that, all right? Where you end up having ink loss is if you, say you haven't used the printer in 4 days, call it, right? And you go and you want to get ready to start printing. That's fine. First thing you do is a nozzle check. The nozzle check basically tells you what nozzles are firing and which ones aren't. Well, if you let the printer sit for 4 days, it's probably not going to be a perfect nozzle check. All right. So what you do is you do a light head clean. That light head clean will push the ink back down out of the print head and clean off the tip of the print head with the wiper blade. And then you do another nozzle check and you're back to printing, right? Then at that point, the nozzle check is back to being perfect. Now, a light head clean on the high end, and the reason why I can't say I can't be 100% exact is a complicated response, and I could go into detail, but I'll try to make it simple. On the high end, at most, is $1 worth of ink, but it's probably not that much. And the reason being is because if a printer sits for a while, there is a regulation of pressure that is always happening inside the printer. And depending on where that regulation of pressure is, it's very likely for the ink to retreat out of the print head and back into the damper system, which is basically a reservoir for the ink. And that's okay. That's totally fine for that to happen. But when you do a clean, you're not actually wasting as much ink because it's just refiltering that ink out of the damper and back into the print head. So maybe in that particular case, it's only 30 cents worth of ink. That's why I said it's kind of, it's hard to give an exact. The idea, though, here is this. Whether you use the printer or not, perform the once-a-week maintenance. That's the key. That's the cleaning around the tips of the print head, cleaning off the wiper blade, and cleaning off the maintenance station. Make it look like it looked right when you got it, and you'll never have a problem with the printer. You'll always maintain a tight seal, and your printer will always be able to be ready to go at a moment's notice. But whether you use it or not, once a week, call it every Friday at 10 a.m., do that once-a-week maintenance, and you'll be happy as can be. Question 8, I have had some DTG shirts done, and I noticed some color bleed difference between colors. How do I control this? That's probably the customer doing the shirt, so or the person that you have doing the shirt more than anything else. They're probably pushing too much ink down onto the garment, and when you put too much ink down onto the garment, you have a tendency of the colors, like for example, if you had a section of a shirt that had a yellow and a black line right down the center of the shirt, and you notice a little yellow spill over in some areas, a little black spill over in some areas, some other areas. That's a settings issue. That's kick your ink back. You're using way too much. You're maybe trying to saturate a sweatshirt when you're printing on a T-shirt, and that should control it. Question 9, do you offer financing? Yeah, we do. We have a few different options for you. Just contact us directly, and I can get you the right people. What is the cleaning process, and what is the shelf life of the ink? So the cleaning process is what I just said, the once-a-week maintenance. The shelf life of the ink, very good question. For the white ink, it's 6 months. For the CMYK, it's a year. Okay. Question 11, you gave a list of advantages in the beginning of this presentation. However, what are the disadvantages? Oh, good question. I would say when you start getting into orders that are like 500 pieces of the same shirt, like say we're printing something for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I hope there's not a lot of Michigan fans on here. But say you're printing OSU on a shirt, and you have 500 of those. That's going to take a while. Whereas a screen printer could do those, even though there's a lot more setup involved, those 500 shirts, actual screen print time is a couple hours. Whereas with even the fastest direct-to-garment printers is maybe, 4 or 5 hours. So the disadvantage is when you start to get to a high volume of shirts of a very simple design, meaning 1 or 2 colors. When you get into, you can still do a 500 shirt order if you have a design like the photograph or a design that has 10 or 12 different colors in it. At that point, the advantage is still in your favor. But when you do, if there's a 500 shirt order and it's 1 or 2 colors, it's probably more cost effective just because of time and labor to have that screen printed than it is to do it through a direct-to-garment printer. But as, and just for point of reference, if you asked me that question 3 years ago, I would have said 150 shirts or greater. So in the last 3 years, because the printer technology has gotten better and printers are faster, let's say, 500 is probably your cut. That's a disadvantage, I would say, that is the one that pops into my head. Where can I go to get data on the pretreatment for GP? Where can I go to get data on pretreatment? I can give you the data that you need. Maybe email me and I can try to direct you to the right spot. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I can do my best. Question 13, can you over-cure a shirt? Yeah, not necessarily over-cure, but if you have a shirt that is under a heat press too long or in a tunnel dryer too long, it can burn the shirt. So you don't want to do that. Most of the heat presses that are out there have an auto pop-up feature, so after it's done with its 90 seconds or whatever time you put on it, it automatically pops up to prevent that. And then also the conveyor dryers, you could typically set it for a specific time so that it knows not to, just stop and cook the shirt for a half hour. So I would say go ahead. You're not going to over-cure it, but if you do have it stuck under a heat source that long, it's basically you could burn it, right? So that's the crux of it. Let's see. I use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop to design. Is it compatible with AnaRip? Does it need to go through AnaRip? Yeah, good question. So yes, it does. It does need to go through AnaRip. Anytime you're any files, I have JPEG, PNG, TIFF, Illustrator, Photoshop, PDF. The printer has to read the certain file, and the reason why is in Photoshop, Illustrator, and those types of graphic softwares, there's no button to tell the printer to put a white ink underbase down, but in our RIP there is, right? So it has to run through the RIP. I mean, that's one of the features, but in addition, it's also, it tells, like I said, it tells the printer where to put the white ink underbase, but it also tells the printer what the correct color profile should be and how to convert these files into the correct color profile. So that's where the RIP is. So you would just need to either save it in whatever you feel comfortable with, like I said, a Photoshop file, Illustrator, PDF. I typically use PNG files because they're small and they maintain transparency. And they don't eat up a lot of memory. Does the ink adhere to fabrics like canvas, weighted fabric, and linen? Yeah, good question. So there's 2 kinds of inks, right? So there's the ink that are for natural fibers, so that's the linen, the cotton, the canvas, things like that, jeans, things, things of that nature. And you can also do blends, right? So poly cotton or tri-blends, that'll work just fine. And you can do any color garments you want, anything under the sun in that arena, right? And then there's the synthetic fabrics, right? The synthetic fabrics are the polyester, spandex, nylon, those kind. The synthetic fabrics, if they're 100% synthetic, there's a different kind of ink that we have. It's essentially a sublimation ink, and you would want to use that. What happens if you don't print every day? Does that cause a print ink? And how easy is it to correct? No, like I said, once a week maintenance. Whether you use the printer or not, do the maintenance once a week and you're good to go. Can you give your email again? I think everybody just got my email. It's atipre@anajet.com, and I'll make sure I get you all the additional answers that you need. Can you save your design from the RIP software onto your computer? Yes, absolutely. Good question. You can save the design directly from your RIP onto your computer, so you can always reference that. You can actually save templates, so because there are different settings, like for example, a sweatshirt versus a t-shirt. A sweatshirt requires a little bit more ink, and there's a wide drop size versus a narrow drop size. Wide would be for the sweatshirt, narrow for the t-shirt. So you can just create a template. So anytime you're going to do a sweatshirt, you don't have to go through the whole thing again. All you have to do is open that template, drop your image in, hit print. So it makes it nice and easy for you. Next one, do you ever think they'll be able to print ink from a wide format printer onto paper that can be heat pressed onto the shirt and last? You know, I think the technology is, in all these arenas, is getting better. It's just going to be different. It's not going to be the quality of a direct garment printed. It's not going to be the quality of a screen print. Transfers are just inherently, I mean, they're good, you know, for quick, easy way to get it done, but they just typically aren't, you know, they're not going to last in the wash. It's not where the money and the focus is going. Put it that way. The focus is in the direct-to-garment printing industry. That's where the cash is being infused into our segment of the industry. Question 20 is, what is the initial cost for software and ink minimum? Assume special printer needed. So the software comes with the printer, and then the ink price per print is about, like I said, 20 cents for a light shirt and 85 cents for a dark. I hope that answered your question. Are the printers and software Mac compatible? Good question. Right now, we just released a new version of our software that is only PC compatible, but Mac is definitely on the horizon. Question 22, what ink brand does the mPower require? How much per liter? We sell ink in 220 milliliter cartridges and 440 milliliter cartridges. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to break down the specifics. I can tell you that it's 65 for the 220 and 130 for the 440. And it's probably a little bit more accurate to look at it from a cost per print. The ink that we require and recommend and strongly, urgently recommend is you use our ink. Our ink is specifically formulated to handle it. 2 years ago, there was a third-party ink that some of our customers started using, and it severely damaged the internal components of the printer, the print heads and things like that, to the point where a lot of that stuff had to be replaced. It was really unfortunate for about 100, 150 of our customers. It was just and it was all based off third-party ink. Be careful what you put in your printer, and any printer, it doesn't matter if it's AnaJet or whoever, use the ink that they recommend. Even if it's a little bit more expensive, in the long run, you're going to get what you want out of your printer. Can I show the slide with the YouTube link? Yes, I'm going to go back to it right now. So that YouTube, oh, there it is. All right, so feel free to click on that. What is the benefit of the primer machine over the spray bottle? The primer machine, it takes all the headache out of it. I mean, it's just, you put it down there, hit a button. The spray, I think is pretty easy, but there is a little bit more of a learning curve to it. You've got to make sure that you are getting enough on, whereas the pre-treatment machine will ensure that you do from the get-go. Do you lease machines? Yeah, contact us. We'll put you in contact with the right lease companies. What shirt brands do you recommend for best quality print? I like all shirt brands. I just prefer high quality shirts. That's my take on it. Will a poor quality shirt still work? Yes, but higher quality shirts, higher quality results. That's the end of it. I mean, it really, we use Spectra a lot. We like Spectra. They're down the street from us. They have really good prices on ring spun shirts. I think they're like $225 for a black ring spun shirt. Really good price. We like them. In fact, if you say you're an AnaJet customer, they will give you AnaJet preferred pricing. So go after them. Next one is there training to actually learn to use the printer when you buy it? Yes, there is training. And we can outline all of that for you, and it's free for you. We can outline all of that for you when we start putting together your package. But absolutely, we want you to be trained. The better trained you are, the more efficient you are with your printer, the more efficient you are with the printer, the more money you make, the more money you make, the more money AnaJet makes because you're buying more ink, right? So it's a win-win for everybody. So we do devote a lot of training and effort and resources into making sure that you're well trained. All right, I think that is it, guys. I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you all were able to join us. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Also, if you have a representative here at AnaJet, feel free to reach out to them. And like I said, you get all of everybody that has attended the webinar gets preferred pricing. So I'll get the list and kind of cross-reference it and make sure that you guys get the best pricing that we can offer. Thank you so much again, and thank you to our ASI team. Really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a really good rest of the week, and hopefully we'll be talking soon. Thanks.